Today, we're exploring the concept of cultivating a mindset of peace and understanding. The first thing to realize is that there is no next step to being happy, okay? Happiness is a state of mind achieved through gratitude and positive perspective. By appreciating our lives and maintaining the understanding that joy is completely within our control, regardless of external circumstances, we can find true peace and contentment. Okay. So we're going to give you guys a few tips on how to find that inner peace. Okay. So first and foremost, friends, take responsibility for how you feel. The first thing to understand with emotional regulation is that nobody else is responsible for how you feel but you. Control the things you can control, like your attitude and effort. Controlling your attitude and effort is essential because these are the only aspects of our life that we truly have control over. While we can't dictate the events that unfold around us, we can choose how we respond to them, okay? And we've talked about this a lot in our podcast, my friends. We can't control other people's actions. We can't control how other people treat us or see us. We can't control the weather, okay? So these are things that are completely out of our control. We can control our attitude and our effort. So how we respond to said people who treat us a certain way, or maybe people who show up late all the time, or whatever the circumstances are, instead of us getting upset or us getting mad, we can control our own emotions. And what I like to say is, a Libra doesn't change its stripes, right? And so if you have people in your life, whether it's friends, family, coworkers, that repeatedly do something that aggravates you, I'm here to tell you right now, babe, it's not going to stop. So stop letting them control how you feel. Stop letting them control your emotions. All right. Control the things you can. Same thing with like effort when it goes into work, when it goes into your life, what you're going to accomplish, right? You can't control if you get laid off from your job, but you can control if you decide to get another one and continue to move up because of your attitude and effort. Go ahead, Cesley. I know you wanted to share something that just happened to you recently that's kind of in that same situation.
I did.
Yeah, you wanted to share about the weather on your vacation because we can't control the weather.
I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Okay, y'all. So listen, check this out. I really did want to talk about this. So last week, a couple weeks ago, we went on vacation, and we usually take like 1 week during the summer to go to the beach. And every year we do this. We get a beach house. We go with my dad and my sisters, and it's our really like 1 week to unplug. My husband takes off work. My kids go. It's really fun. This time, what we didn't realize was little tropical storm Alberto was going to try and ruin our good time at the beach. Okay. So we get there. First day is great. Second and third day, it's pouring down rain. The third day also happens to be my son's birthday. So his 12th birthday, we're like so excited. We're going to go to the beach. We have all these plans. None of it panned out. So instead, we ended up bringing a ton of board games. We watched a ton of like just random movies that we would have never watched, like really fun movies. We watched this one like survival, like wilderness show, and we were all screaming at the TV the whole time about like the awful people that were on it. And it actually was a lot of fun. But we could have really made that into a terrible time. Like we're at the beach. We can't go outside. When I tell you it's storming, like we were concerned about getting off the island for a little while. The tide was rising, my friends. However, we didn't let it ruin our time. Like the thing is, life is going to happen. If you look at the beginning of your life to the end of your life is a steady of ups and downs. And there was a podcast episode, a Trent Shelton podcast episode the one that I was telling you about, Brandi, and one of my favorite lines from that episode when I was listening to it was very similar to kind of what we're talking about today. And he said, if you're steady, you're flatlined. And that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks because we all want this like steady life, right? We all want to just kind of coast. And if you're coasting and if you're steady, the only thing that's steady is a flat line. And that means you're dead. Like that's like done. Your life is over. And so you have to just realize that life comes at you sometimes. It's up, it's down. It's never going to be perfect. And we often think that like people are out there pushing our buttons. But at the end of the day, nobody can push a button that isn't there. So nobody's inside of your body but you. So you have to think about what you're actively doing to get yourself out of the victim mindset.
I love that so much. And there's a few things that I just like with what you just said. The first thing is we always think, okay, life is going to get better, or I'll do this when, or I'll feel happy when. And we're going to kind of talk about that later, but mindset wise, and I'm here to tell you, life does not get easier. Life does not slow down. You, just like Cesley said, you're going to go through ups and you're going to go through downs. And quite honestly, you're going to probably go through more downs than ups. People are going to end up in the hospital. People are going to die. Jobs get lost. Everything gets higher. Like right now, people are struggling to just survive financially, right? So all we're here to say is like, you have to find that inner peace and work towards that happiness, because it's never going to be rainbows and butterflies. It's never going to be perfect. And understanding that and trying to look on the positive side of things is huge. And then the other thing that Cesley said, I love, like with her vacation and her kids, like what they did, like it rained, they were at the beach, and you think, oh man, bummer, we're at the beach and it's raining. Well, they still had a great time. And there's a quote that I just love so much, is like, you can't make your kids' lives perfect, but in that you can have perfect moments together. And I think that's what's so important, is like our lives are never going to be important, or gosh, our lives are never going to be perfect. They're all important. We all have a mission here. But our lives are never going to be perfect, and we can't create perfect lives for our children, but we sure can create perfect moments, and teaching them like, hey guys, even though it's not sunny, we're still going to have fun, versus being that parent who is complaining the whole time. Oh my gosh, we spent X amount of money. Oh, we were supposed to do X, Y, and Z. And then your kids see you complaining, and then that's how they grow up. And then that is their mindset. So what Cesley did is absolutely perfect with her family. It's like, yeah, darn, but we still have this time together. We're still off, and we're still going to make the most of it.
Yeah. And just adding to that, one thing that I love about just coming from a biblical perspective, especially, like a lot of times we think like, well, yeah, I have ups and downs. Yeah, life has ups and downs. But at the end of the day, like, I'm going to pray to God to get me out of this circumstance. I'm going to pray to God to get me out of this thing. Like, there's a very clear theme throughout the Bible. And it's not God is going to save us from our circumstances. It is that it's still good in the storm. It's that no matter what storms we weather in our lives, we now have peace from within. So it's not God's going to save us from this existence, from this life, from what we go through, but it is, you know what? God is still good. God is still good in the pain, in the pleasure, in the less, in the more, in the middle of the storm. Like, you have a peace from within. And so it's important to look at that and not think like, well, I'm going to pray to God to get me out of this circumstance, to give me better. No, like, He's giving you goodness right now. Our goodness is not based on our circumstances. Like, you, my friend, are highly favored always, 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 always. In your life, you are highly favored and loved, and you don't have to look for a better day to have peace. Like, you can make that for yourself right now.
So good. And it reminds me of like what we say on this podcast all the time, Cesley. You grow through what you go through. And then speaking of Trent Shelton, we both love him so much. He said in one of his podcasts, everything you're going through will soon turn into everything you've made it through.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. All right. Next one, guys. Number 2.
All right, guys. Number 2, don't monetize your happiness. Okay. People who see money as a source of happiness will never fully be happy, because they're always going to want more. There's always someone who's going to be richer than you, someone who's done more than you, someone who has more than you. And that's okay. Take the time to seek out time for yourself and what really matters, and do not worry about attaining material things, right? And so I've heard this on numerous podcasts, is honestly with millionaires who say, you know what? If you're always searching for like money, hey, I'll be happy when I hit 100,000. I'll be happy when I hit 1 million. I'll be happy when I hit 2 million. Well, you're never going to be happy. So when you're thinking about like what will truly give you happiness, and for me, truly just being able to have time with my family and friends and have financial freedom. I don't have to be a millionaire. I don't need that. I need to be able to pay our bills, have a roof over our head, and maybe have some extra money to give back to the world. That is my goal. That is what makes me happy, right? And so accomplishing that then versus, okay, I have to make this, I have to make that, I have to make this. You have to figure out what your mission on this world is, what your why is. If you had all the money in the world and didn't have to work, what would make you happy? You know what I mean? Like, don't go after monetary things. Life is so much more than that.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? What you just said, so many people can't answer that question. So like the question of, if you had millions of dollars, unlimited money in the bank, what would you choose as your career? So say just this random hypothetical question, you have all the money in the bank that you could possibly ever want, but you still have to work. You have to pick a profession. What would you do? I guarantee you there's a lot more people, like if you're listening to this episode and you're sitting there going, I have no idea what I would do. You might be prioritizing money a little bit too much. And we're not saying, like, don't get us wrong, we're not saying money is bad. Like money can do beautiful things in the right hands. Money can do great things. It can support your family. It can provide a wonderful life for you. But prioritizing money as your goal at the end of the day, like that being your reason for working, your reason for living, your reason for doing whatever it is you're doing, you're going to burn out really fast. And it's an addiction. Like I'm very clear about this. And anybody that I talk to, like hustle culture and being a workaholic is the only acceptable addiction in our society. We are taught from the time that we're little children to be really, really good and advanced so that we can get to the next thing. So we can get to the next thing. So we can get to the next thing. Like there's never a point where we're taught that if we are passionate about something, if we're happy and we have peace every day, then that's good enough. And we don't need to look for something else. We're constantly taught this addiction of looking for the next thing to make more money. And that's where the problem lies. And you'll never have complete peace. Like that's what we're talking about in this episode. We're talking about how to find peace. And you will never have peace in your day-to-day life if you're prioritizing money, because we spend money every day. Like money's always going to get spent. Money's always going to get made. It's like food. Like food's always going to get eaten. Food's always going to get grown. So if you're prioritizing making money, guess what? You're going to spend it. So you're going to have stress because you're going to be thinking about, well, I just spent this amount of money. So now I got to make more money in order to continue this whole cycle. You got to get off what is it called? Hamster wheel? Get off the hamster wheel.
Yeah, the hamster wheel.
Get out of the rat race.
Yeah.
I don't know why all these things about hustle are like animals.
And I love this too, is like you don't have to hustle, work 24/7 to make good money and excel in life. That hustle culture is it's just not healthy. And that's what we're trying to say. Cause like Cesley and I, we are go-getters. We like to work hard. I can use my aunt as an example. I love my aunt. She's so wonderful. She works her booty off. She makes very good money, but her purpose is she wants to leave a legacy and she wants to give back to her family. She helps me. She helps my brother. She lives and works hard to give. Like she's actually inspires a HE double hockey stick out of me, because that's what I want to be able to do. So just remembering what that mission and your purpose and your why, right? You don't want to look back at your life and have no fulfillment because you've tied your happiness to these monetary markers. Okay. You, my friend, we're so much more than that. God created you for more than that. You can never feel deep happiness or fulfillment just by reaching for the next best thing. And the next best thing is like, oh, I got the car that I wanted. Now I need a better car. I have the house that I wanted. Now I need more. And that's all that we're trying to tell you, is that you are worth so much more than what you make. And we don't want you guys to just hustle and work 9 to 5 and a million different things and not spend time on the things that you enjoy and spend time with the people you love the most.
Yeah. And actually, I was just, I don't know if it was a podcast I was listening to, but I think it was like a research study where they were talking about the correlation between prioritizing materialism and lower levels of happiness. They did this study on people, but they asked them all these questions about their job, their profession, their goals, and then they studied them over a length of time. And the people that prioritized materialism and monetary goals were just less happy. Like, I don't even know how else to explain that. Like, their blood pressure was higher. They had lower levels of gratitude. Like when they asked certain like gratitude question markers, they scored lower on these tests. They were they scored lower on the tests where they were asking them questions about happiness. Like, the proof is in the pudding. You can always look around you and see that people who are chasing money are never happier than the people who have found peace in, yes, still working hard, but being okay with where they're at also. Like, you have to have a balance.
Yes, it's all about that gratitude, right? So like if you have a great car that's paid off and works, that's wonderful. Why do you need a new car? Same thing with an iPhone. Why do you need the new iPhone, right? And just looking at, you're not going to be happy just because you have the newest of everything. You'll be happy when you're grateful for what you do have. I think that's so important. All right. So your friends and family are not going to stand up at your funeral and say, oh my gosh, she was such a great person. She worked every single day of her life and she had a lot of money. Right? Think about that for a second, guys.
It's so true. Like, when you think about the people that you love, like, what's the first thing you say about people? I mean, I'm hoping it's not like, oh my gosh, they are so rich. If it is, we're probably not your people. You wouldn't still be listening to this.
Right.
But nobody ever is like, oh my gosh, what a life fulfilled. They had so much money in the bank they didn't take with them. Like, even when we talk about the people who are the billionaires and trillionaires of the world, we talk about their philanthropy. Like, the people that pass away and leave their money to these great causes, we talk about their passion, what they did with it. It's never about the monetary gain. So as soon as you start monetizing happiness, you will never have peace. Period.
Point blank. All right, we're going to go to number 3.
This is my favorite one. All right, number 3 is don't seek revenge. Dun, dun, dun. I don't say that as good as Brandi does. She's great at sound effects. Listen, there's a verse in Romans in the Bible that speaks about revenge, and I'm going to just paraphrase, but it is basically says, do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay. And then it goes later on in the same verse to say, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. And I just think, like, what would happen in your life if this is the way that you lived your life towards your enemies? What if you lived this way? What if somebody wronged us and we thought, how can I pray for that person today? What is going on in their lives possibly? Like, even if you don't know, maybe they're just a horrible, awful person. Maybe they, so I've got a good example. My mom actually at work, she's got someone at work who worked for her, who she had to actually let go. It's just part of her job. And they were supposed to come back into work after COVID and start working back in the office. And I don't know all the details. This person basically just didn't want to come back in. And so she said, okay, well, those are the parameters of coming back to work. We got to come back to work. And so she ended up leaving. And then she was unhappy with the fact that they basically told her she couldn't stay home anymore. And so she created a rumor that there were a lot of inappropriate things happening in the office, like just crazy things that were absolutely in no way true. And when you think about stuff like that happens all the time. Rumors are spread about you. People say things about you that are so just off the cuff. Especially think about people that say things about like your parenting. Like, that's a hard one to swallow and not seek revenge on. Or about your business, the way you run your business, the way Brandi and I are both in social retail. Like, people have a lot to say about that sometimes. Like, people have a lot to say about a lot of things. But what if you looked at these people and every single time someone had something bad to say about you or to other people about you, if you just said, you know what is going on in their life, in their world, in their mind, that's the first thought that comes to their head. Like, how much trauma do they have? How much hurt do they have? Think about the people that they've interacted with in their lifetime, to where the only interactions that they have had in their life are so bad that their first thought about you is that it has to be negative, right? Like, they can't possibly think that you're a joyful, kind person. They have to think bad things about you. Like, that speaks so much about the people they've dealt with in their life. Like, they must not have come across many kind, gracious people to learn from. So if you can see people through a different lens, it will change everything in your world, and you'll have so much peace. Like, I've had so many friends who, like, best friends, like people who were in my wedding party. I guess that really is like spilling the beans about like, who I'm not friends with anymore. Right? Yeah, I think. But like, I've had people who were very, very close friends for years who, when I stopped tolerating negativity in my life, they disappeared, and they had a lot to say too. When I stopped partying, when I stopped accepting negativity, when I would only choose to have certain influence around me, man, they had a lot to say. And all I could think about these people was, wow, they really must not have interacted with people who are truly joyful and truly have peace. And do you know how much peace that can give you? It is such a powerful thing to be able to look at someone and say, man, not I feel sorry for you, but I have so much empathy for you.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I can say that I've grown because I haven't been in this place of peace for a very long time, right? It's taken a lot of healing. And I was the person where somebody wronged me. I was like, oh, I would get so worked up and I would get so mad. I'm like, oh my God, I've done this for them. I've done this for them. I've done this for them. Why did they do that? And then finally got to the point where it's like, we're already talking about this. I can't control other people's actions. I can control what they think or say. I actually have empathy for them. They must have gone through something in their life. There must be some kind of hurt, some kind of insecurity, and that's okay. I'm going to let it go. And I know we talk about therapy a lot here, and I just want to share something with you guys that I talked to my therapist about. So there's somebody in my very close life that I'm never gonna rid myself of. Okay. And this person needs a lot of attention. This person is always loud. This person is always lying. And I talked to my therapist about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, she drives me nuts. So, but I want you to help me here. Like, how can I have peace? I don't want her to bother me. I want to just get over it, but I can't. And this is what my therapist said to me. She goes, Brandi, it sounds like she's gone through a lot of trauma in her life. It sounds like when she was a kid, the only way she could, and I'm going to start crying, right? The only way she could get attention is to act out, is to lie. She hasn't been healing like you have. Give her grace. And I'm like, wow.
And I
blew my mind. And now she doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Because I feel I have empathy for her because, yeah, you know what? I am working on myself and the traumas and the things that I've gone through, but she hasn't been able to have that opportunity and maybe she never will. So I don't get upset with her anymore. And so when my therapist said that to me, I was like, yes, ma'am. Blew my mind.
Damn. Therapists are so smart. They're so smart, y'all. And isn't it funny when you have grace in your life, you just see people differently. Like you don't even, like when grace is put upon you, you're like, oh, duh. Like it seems almost like just brainless that you didn't see it before. You're like, I see that person so differently now. Like, and it's just incredible what peace and grace will do. If you can just pray grace upon yourself and on others every single day, like you really will see other people in a whole new light. It's incredible.
So true. And guys, you've got to let it go. And we've said this before, let it go, let it go. Like seriously, people are going to hurt you. People are going to lie. You just got to let it go. You got to be able to move on to have your own peace, right? So when you give someone else that hold over you and you are choosing to come out of your own character to get back at them, you're allowing them to disrupt your peace, okay? Learning to let go is one of the greatest powers you can have. We've also said this before, right? Like holding on to a grudge and revenge is like drinking poison and hoping the other person, dies, goes down, right? No, that other person doesn't care about you. They hurt you for whatever it is, what it is, or maybe they don't know because a lot of people just don't know what they're doing or whatever the circumstances are. So when we are literally giving that person poison, we're drinking it. When we are not letting go, if we are not just like, listen, you can forgive, you don't have to forget. It doesn't mean that you have to be buddy or fake or whatever the circumstances are, but for your peace of mind, for your growth, you've got to let it go, my friends. Okay. So we got one more and we're going to land the plane, right? So the first thing is take responsibility for how you feel. The second is don't monetize your happiness. The third is do not seek revenge. And the last is live in the present. Okay. We are so blessed to live in a day and age where we have the ability to plan for the future. However, it has crippled us. Okay. So we spend so much time comparing our lives with others. And we just get so far ahead of ourselves versus stopping and living in the present. So guys, we've said it before, like you can't control the past. Don't stress over the future. Stop giving up these beautiful moments and just truly live in the moment with your kids, with your family, at work, when you're doing the things that you love. Like, yes, we talk about goal planning. We talk about future. That's great, but you can't live in the future, right, Cesley?
Right. Yeah, I love that. And one of my favorite quotes is, you get to enjoy your kids as adults for the rest of their lives, but for a brief time, you get to enjoy them as children. And y'all, this is so, so, so true. And we think about, what am I going to do 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? Like, we're so focused on the future and forward thinking that we don't focus on our daily habits and be like, truly, truly just having peace in where we're at in the present. So a couple of things that just can help you with this is focusing on your daily habits, like sleep, exercise. Y'all, we say it a million times. We shout it from the rooftops, gratitude journaling. Because gratitude journaling, focus on the present. You have to be able to acknowledge that everything changes. And while you can plan for the future, nothing is permanent. Like tomorrow, something can happen that would change your whole life and your entire future. So if you're not appreciating this present moment, tomorrow you have no idea what could happen. No idea. You have to let go of worries for the past or for the future. I've had to even work very hard on this. So recently, I've gone into these just strange worries about my oldest son. So my oldest son is 14. He's getting ready to go into high school. I know that I have 4 years left with him and he's like off the world. And it created some initial like crazy, weird worries in me. Like, what's going to happen in 4 years? What am I going to do to prepare for it? And I had to stop myself and I had to go, oh my gosh, Cesley, like you are living in crazy land. Your mind is racing. You're thinking about all these things and all these like, what's he going to do in 4 years? How am I going to prepare for it? How am I going to make sure he's ready for the world? What if he's not? Like, just my mind was racing with all these insane things. And I was like, hold on. Like, we got to practice some gratitude. We have to notice that I have these years to really make the most of every single day. Let go of things you cannot control. Focus on the things that you can influence and appreciate these little moments of like joy and beauty that we get every single day. So if you need help living in the present, give yourself small daily goals. Maybe it's something like, I'm going to stop work for 30 minutes to play with the kids, and set yourself a timer. Like if it's hard for you to live in the present, you have to practice it. It's not a silly thing to say, I'm going to set a timer and turn technology off by 6 p.m. I'm going to set a timer and play with my kids outside for 30 minutes without stopping. Like it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you've been wrapped up in worry for too long.
Yeah, that's so good. And I kind of want to emphasize something that Cesley just said, right? When it comes to living in the moment, nobody has promised tomorrow. Nobody is promised tomorrow. Okay. We have lost family members. I'm sure you guys have lost family members. Think about that for a second, right? So like if you have 30 minutes and to be able to just play with your kids and read them books at night, and instead of working that extra 30 minutes or whatever the circumstances are, like what if something happened to you? What is your children's last memory of you? I know that's deep. Fuck, that's deep. I get it. When was the last time you picked up the phone for your mom? When was the last time you called your mom? When was the last time you spent time with your brother or your aunt? We're telling you guys this not to scare you, but to be honest with you. And that's where you gotta, and you'll live at peace too if something were to happen to somebody, right? So like we talk about it. I lost my mom. I have no, what is the word? Regrets really, because guess what? I answered the phone every time she called me. I was there every time she needed me. We had a great relationship. So when she did pass away, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I wish I picked up the phone. Oh my gosh, I wish I told her I love her more. She knew how much I loved her. We say it all the time, right? And so we want you guys to make sure that you're living the time that you have on this earth to the fullest with the people that you love. And yes, working is important. We get it. We both work numerous jobs, right? But there was the top 10 regrets of the dying. We talked about this before too, right? You don't want to be on your deathbed and wishing that you had spent more time with the people that you love. And before I wrap this up, is there anything else that you'd like to add, Cesley?
No, I think what you said was really important and really profound. And I'll be pretty vulnerable and come from the other side of it and say, I didn't. I learned this after the fact. So when my stepfather passed away, talked about it previously, he suffered with a lot of mental health things that just plagued him, and he committed suicide. And when I got that phone call, it was one of the most uprooting moments of my entire life, because I was sitting in the parking lot. I had just pulled into work actually, and I was sitting in the parking lot, and I couldn't tell you the last time that I had spent a good 30 minutes to an hour with him, just spending time together, because I had two small children. I was in the middle of a very tumultuous marriage that, you know, I've talked about it previously. I'm not going to get into it right now, but like I was in the middle of some storms and I didn't take the time and I didn't think about it because I just kind of assumed that I had more time. Yeah. And so looking back at it, like, let this be something you think about. And I don't say this to be like, wow, Cesley is so melodramatic, but like, I say this because think about the difference and what Brandi has taught me and what people around me have taught me and what my experience has taught me. And I can tell you that I never made that mistake again. It changed every relationship in my life from that day forward because I was never, ever, ever going to let any single person in my life go by without knowing how loved they are, that I want to be with them. No job, no hour of work, no anything will be more important. No dollar. Like you can't tell me, hey, you can make an extra amount of money if you go work this. I'm sorry. Like no dollar amount is worth the time that you can never get back.
So good. All right, Grow Girls, as we wrap up this episode on finding inner peace and joy, remember that the key lies within you. Take responsibility for how you feel, recognizing that your emotions and reactions are within your control. Don't monetize your happiness. Understand that true joy isn't bought or sold, but cultivated from within. Avoid the trap of seeking revenge, which only creates negativity and hinders your peace. Instead, live in the moment, fully embracing the present and finding beauty in the here and the now. By adopting these principles, you can unlock a profound sense of inner peace and enduring joy. And remember, you're worthy, you're capable, you're beautiful, and we can't wait to watch you grow, girl.